Coming at you from Scratch Wolf Studio, it's that time again to rage across the internet. It's your very favorite Werewolf the Apocalypse podcast. As always, I'm your host, Porter. Sitting across from me, direct from sick bay, Mr. Daniel Tyson.
Hey, everybody.
And coming at us from parts unknown for the very first time on a regular show, it's all welcome M and NOP. M, good to have you with us. You have to say a thing.
I did. I said hello.
We didn't hear.
Did you not pick it up?
No, it didn't pick up.
I'm so sorry. Hello.
Glad to have you with us on a regular show here.
Thanks for joining us, Em.
It's nice to be here.
Oh, that didn't sound...
Nice to be here.
Man, lie to us some more. Shit.
So convincing.
Ugh, God, I guess.
You guys
It's so good to be here. Goodness gracious.
Beautiful.
Much better, thanks.
So,
Yeah, I guess just say it. Just fucking say it.
This isn't an actual play.
But you guys just said.
We just said.
Fuck.
Porter, you lied to me.
Not on purpose, we swear.
We just make the announcement, hey, just actual plays for a bit. We've got fucking, here's the thing, guys, look.
The Time-O-Verse.
Yeah, the Time-O-Verse is a motherfucker. So, it's Sunday, because it's when we record.
Yes.
And so last night, I am working on final adjustments for the actual play. I'm getting,
Yeah, your script you gotta write.
All right, we got to finalize, right? You gotta dot the lowercase j's and cross the t's and, all that stuff. So I get a DM from CJ.
Right.
And he says, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'm dying. I got stuck in a well. I'm being airlifted to a hospital and I can't be there tomorrow.
That's a hell of a
My voice box has been temporarily removed.
Right. He's like, the Borg have got me. I'm half robot. It's not going to work. I don't know what to do.
That's a hell of a paraphrase.
Some of this might be fictional.
It's a little bit longer than his actual message.
Little, maybe, yes. Though to be fair, what he sent you guys
is different than what he sent.
Yes. we talked first.
Yeah, I figured for how short the message was, I realized, I was like, all right, him and Porter were probably talking for a bit. And Porter told him, well, make sure you tell everybody.
Well, no, and here's what, CJ he's sick. And I was going to say everyone tell him to feel better, but by the time this airs, he will have forgotten this even happened.
Yeah, Time-O-Verse.
So everyone's going to be like, oh, feel better, CJ. He's going to be like, what the fuck are you talking
He's
about?
Fine.
Yeah, he's fine now.
He's fine now. It's the fucking Time-O-Verse.
Right, it's like the
We
15th.
could just hop in there later and just say, feel better.
We could, but everyone will be like, what are you talking about? What's wrong with CJ? And they won't know until fucking...
Well, they'll find out eventually.
It's not even the same year is when we're talking about this. This is how the Time-O-Verse works.
Technically, it's not even the same year anymore.
Right? We're talking about shit that happened last year now.
What the fuck? Damn it.
We're in the Time-O-Verse. Yeah, it's Sunday the 17th when we're talking about this, right? Mm-hmm. Because here's the thing, is we can't record, the next 2 weeks, it's Christmas and New Year's.
Right.
So this is it. This is the last day of the year that we can record.
Yep. Because, we're not... Yes, can we record other days? It's just this is the most convenient for all of us.
Well, right. It becomes... the holidays, come on.
Right.
We're not getting together on the next 2 Sundays.
No, I know, it sucks.
Right.
I would much...
Christmas Eve and then New Year's Eve.
Right.
Right.
And there are, the Christmas Eve when I would much rather be here and hang out with Porter.
But. Right. Well, it's the same way with our backer hangout night.
Yeah.
We had to push that to Jan for the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
Just to get clear of the fucking holidays. The backer hangout night, by the way, which is our way of thanking backers for supporting us, which you can do so on our Ko-Fi. That's ko-fi.com/rage across the internet. And that takes place on our Discord. The link of which is on the forums of our website, which is rageacrosstheinternet.com.
.com.
There we go. There we go. She knows the score.
You got the score?
I knew you were going to say something if I didn't.
Beautiful.
One of us just would have pretended to be you.
No, let's rewind. I'd like to hear that.
Deckham.
That was bad.
Thanks, Sam.
Bad or not, it's still going to happen.
You asked for it. We have it just recorded. You actually asked for that. But anyway.
Oh my.
So he hit me up and he's like, hey, he's like, I'm sick. I mean, he was sick.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. He's not going to cancel if he's not.
Well, he didn't cancel right away.
Oh.
Like I was, we were gaming, the night before and he had like a wicked cough. Oof. Like his voice didn't sound good. And he's like, hey, I have the flu or COVID. I'm not sure which.
Bummer.
And I'm like, well, what does this mean for tomorrow? Mm-hmm. He's like, well, as long as my voice holds up. And I'm thinking, dude, I'm like, look, man, mm-hmm. I know the spirit is willing.
And it's appreciated.
Right. But I'm sitting here going in my head, but if you have any doubts, you need to tell me now so we can make arrangements instead of at 10 o'clock tomorrow.
Right.
Because I had this vision, because, CJ wants to be there. He had every intention to be there, but I knew in my fucking heart that today would come and he would feel so much worse. And then now we don't have a contingency plan because we're supposed to record in 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. So I told him if there's any chance, let's just call it. So now we can make a contingency tonight. And
Which
he
makes
agreed.
No sense.
Yeah.
What's the contingency?
Well, this right here.
Thanks for being here, Em.
Yeah,
what's the
topic? She is business. I don't know if you've listened to this show. We tend to meander a bit.
Yes. I ran out of ways to contribute.
There's no more contribute, so I just have to fucking get through it. Okay, guys, what's the business, guys?
Time to go.
I apologize.
Time to go, dicks.
Cut it out if you don't like it.
No, so yeah, here we are, and I know we just said fucking that we're going to be on the actual, but so we didn't want to do nothing. So here we are, the three of us are recording a couple episodes for you.
I was going to say, so it's still going to be the every other week. These are supposed to be actual play episodes, but
hence this isn't an actual what?
Yeah. And sorry you didn't hear anything last Tuesday, and you probably won't hear anything next Tuesday.
Yeah.
So it's still going to be the other week.
Yes, but thank you for hanging out with us through this transition. And
yeah, it's
it's a temporary thing, we assure you, but like we said in the post the day after Christmas of the Boxing Day episode. It's weird we didn't lean into that at all. I should have done half that episode in a Rocky voice. It's fine. I was like, Chris, can I go home now? Are you feeling strong now, Em?
Very strong, I guess.
You got that eye of the tiger? I'm so tempted to join in, but then that's going to be what we do. So yeah, we thought So it's interesting, and I feel like maybe someone asked this because they want credit for it. Which
really?
I'm perfectly fine with. This was actually M's idea, today's show. Is we're going to be doing another storyteller episode, talking about, building. It's Chronicle Building here. It's building compelling stories. You know how we do these every now and then. So thanks for the idea.
No problem. Full of them.
Perfect, yeah. I know there have been people who've reached out, like, thanking us for these kinds of episodes. I've got a select handful in my head right off the bat. But they're not really sure on how to portray the ideas going on in their heads. And I get that. Like, I'm not very good at it either. But being able to talk to you, Porter, about it is fucking helpful if I ever want to, one time do this. Probably not. But at least the ideas are there and very easily to, like, spitball off these. Kind of bounce around, figure out where you need to go compared to.
Well, and to be fair, Em has also had some storytelling experience.
Which I didn't know beforehand.
Yes, I've told a few stories.
Well,
a little bit of werewolf, a little bit of vampire, a bit of Pathfinder as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we all know which one was your favorite.
Yes, obviously. Mm-hmm. Werewolf.
I mean, what are you doing here if it's not?
I was actually expecting
hanging out.
I was actually expecting werewolf to not be the answer.
What did you think the answer was going to be?
I think either one, just to be a contrarian, is what I was expecting.
Just to go against everything you have and everything you stand for.
Just to sling a little mud, cause some trouble, have some fun.
In which case, that's fine.
That's fits
right
do,
in then.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yes.
So another storyteller episode, and again, people reached out. They love these. We love bringing the ideas to life. But how do you bring those ideas and form them into one cohesive story?
I like to use words.
Mm-hmm. Words.
I put words together to form sentences.
Words is good.
Right.
That's a really complex concept, Porter.
I know. Maybe I should stop. I should break it down. I use syllables to form the words.
Right, hold on. I need a second.
And then make sentences into paragraphs. Wait, how dare I? Honestly.
How far around do we have to take this?
Oh, I see what he did.
Hey-oh.
Well, I mean, I guess, and I'm sure I've said it before, for me, like, wherever your source of inspirato is, right? Like, whatever the inspiration has, whatever your starting point. Like, I mean, it does vary. I mean, it's easy to go, we start at the start. It's not that simple.
Not always, no.
A thing can develop around a particular scene. We've talked about this, something like, I built the guilty from the concept of the ending. Into the Breach was around that one scene that we've talked to death about that I never actually got to do with Whiplash and Waya, So, it's hard to necessarily put your finger on, right? But when you get that first idea, you want to do, look at if-then type statements, right? How do you build around that scene to make it make sense, right? I've said time and time again, you can have an idea. You can't just do something because you think it's cool, right? Like that's not to say you can't do something you think is cool, but just because it's cool isn't good enough. You have to build around that so it makes sense, so it follows, a rhythm, so it follows the logic of the game. There are rules, and even if you golden rule the shit you don't like, you have still made rules, and you have to exist and abide by the rules that have been set up.
There should be consistent rules, too, not varying and waving consistently.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And as a storyteller, you're the number one and the only one responsible for that.
That's true. And maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves. I'll get to it later. It's bouncing around.
Circle back around to it.
Yeah, right. Like that's odd for us, but let's.
What?
And especially when you're building a chronicle, right? I mean, obviously your setting's important, the mood's important, the themes you want to touch down on, these are all important. Your time too. All right. The era of which a game is set in is obviously, it's very important. And it leads into how you do something now, right? In a game set now, for example, and how you do in a game set 20 years ago or 30 years ago or in the Wild West or the Dark Ages. You can have the same theme, but the story's going to be told differently.
I was going to say, it can be the same story, but how it's told has to be different.
The themes can be the same.
Sure, yeah. It's beat for beat.
You can get away with it, but it's going to be very different because of those things. And even then, you want to tailor your inspiration and what you look to help guide you. Like, it's got to be appropriate.
Oh, yeah.
If you're doing a Wild West game, you want to watch Tombstone, you want to watch Young Guns, The Quick and the Dead. You want to load yourself up with like Western stuff because it's thematically appropriate. What you don't want to do, right, is like Boys in the Hood.
I was going to say, like, I don't know, Lost
Play
Boys.
Some Cyberpunk 2077 to get some inspiration for a Wild West game.
Right. And it's not to say those themes it's not to say it can't share themes.
I was going to say, they can coexist, but
right.
Maybe only barely.
If I'm doing a story, a heavy kind of tech noir type story, I'm not going to Back to the Future Part 3.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you. They don't match.
That's true.
So,
yes,
as someone who has told a few stories, where have you found inspiration from to write these?
Typically, before I start writing the story, I like to ask the people I'm playing with what kinds of ideas they have. Like, what are some things they would like to accomplish as characters, or like what kinds of like vibes or feelings they'd like for the game. Do they want something really serious? Do they want something action-packed, something a little bit more political? And so I kind of take my players' thoughts into account, and then I go and find inspiration from there by like reading books or watching movies, video games, and then I pick out themes and kind of build from there.
See, that's excellent. I lean more toward music for me is a big source of inspiration, probably more so than, for example, movies or TV shows. But you bringing up is a good point, is talking to your group and seeing what they want, because that's important too.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of, for me anyway, I wait a while for that.
See how they play first.
Well, there's that. But there's also establishing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, let's look at, because hey, look, turns out I'm speaking to, you know, a chunk of the cast of Wherever Gaia Takes Us.
What?
That's a werewolf actual play. It's crazy.
It is, and it's a really good one.
It feels like it should be. You should be listening to that right now.
I mean,
but like some sort of
normally
time over bullshit has prevented that from happening. It's crazy.
The time-o-verse is a bastard.
It is. I feel like a fucking time-o-verse shirt is going to happen at some point.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
A little bit. Yeah, so it turns out we have a couple members of the cast of Wherever Gaia Takes Us. So you guys know right now we're at Willow's Path, we're on the island, we're setting things up, there's the mystery we're building, but there's a point here, right, where the story is going to allow for divergences. Let's say, for the sake of argument, at the end of the first chronicle.
Okay.
And that becomes the time becomes the time when that question comes up, where I look to you guys to help guide me as to where we take things. But for me, it's important to get the establishing bits out first. You know, you look at, for example, Into the Breach. What happened at the end of Into the Breach? I opened things up and gave you guys a choice about where to go. You tell me where the story's going.
I was going to say, yeah, we were given a choice, and it was essentially left or right.
Well, it was also straight ahead. You had the option to go wherever you wanted.
Were there.
You chose something I didn't expect, which led to the guilty. Cool. But nonetheless, you know, like I said, for me, I like to keep that establishing bit. Let's get let's get that dynamic set, because that's important too, right? You don't know how a group of players, or you might have a good idea how a group of players, but maybe not the characters will interact and how they will mesh.
Now, for that one specifically, for, you know, as our group was at the time, we were all brand new players. I'm going to guess, Em, when you wrote this story, your story, were these all brand new players for you, or they all had some kind of werewolf experience?
They were all new to werewolf, but they had played other variations of World of Darkness before, all except for one who had never role-played before.
Okay, interesting.
I did start them out like post-change into their like training for Rite of Passage, just briefly to kind of give an intro. But then I kind of like steered into a few of the themes that they were interested in.
Okay, interesting. See, and I get why Porter did it that way, but I also understand why you would do that every time too. As far as
it is also a good way to start setting up the story as well.
Right, yeah. Setting up the story first makes sense.
And yeah, like there's not a right or wrong way to do that. But, you know, like I said, I found that once I know what I'm dealing with, or have a better idea of who I'm dealing with in terms of not only player, because ideally, but also character. Because those should be two very different things, or at least different things. Yeah. And, you know, you never know how a dynamic goes, or if there are changes that are going to be made. You know, I don't know about you. You know, I like to give, especially with newer players, I like to give them a couple story grace periods where if they need to make changes to their character, if something isn't working right, we can just retcon it.
I decided I don't like the Galliard very much. Let's switch over to a Ragabash.
Right. And
I'm not a huge fan of this clan. I feel like I like that one a little bit better. I didn't realize I needed perception.
Right. And so you just allow those changes. No, they were always the Ragabash. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's only been like 2 or 3 stories. It's not going to hurt anything.
Quick retcon.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. You're still establishing the world. It's not hurting anything.
Exactly. The longer you go with that, though, the more complicated it gets.
I was just going to say the exact same thing. It's probably a lot more difficult to do the longer that waits.
Well, there's ripples, right? And you just hand wave it and go, shut up, don't worry about it.
What's the Umbra? You've been here for fucking 2 years.
Carl, or not, go drink some ketchup.
Ew.
And dance with some spirals.
Fucking earthblood. Ketchup drinking, crossbow shooting, plant filleting,
Hey, nothing wrong with crossbows.
That's what you got out of it. Okay.
Well, all right. Fine.
Plant filleting.
Watch it with your crossbow negative talk.
I have been told.
Is it a fetished weapon?
I mean,
Are you asking about my character's crossbow?
Yes.
No, it's just a crossbow.
Hey, Carl, he's
Now,
got
do we
enough
want
fetishes.
it to be? Yes, but... Hey, now.
I have to
Watch
say,
it, Porter.
I heard it. I don't know if she heard it or not, but apparently she did.
Took it a moment to register.
Fucking Carl, man. I don't... Actually, I heard they're making a sequel where you play as Carl's Jr.
Oh, man.
That's a terrible joke, and I'm not sorry.
That was... The timing on it, though, was perfect. I'll give you that one. The timing, it was great.
That joke was fucking hot garbage. It's staying in.
It's staying in. It caught me off guard.
Oh, God.
Maybe go play some checkers.
Uh,
I did it. Poorly, but I did it.
I mean, he did it. He made a joke. Danny made a joke.
Yay, Danny!
Woo!
Thanks.
He did that himself. I did not high-five that shit.
What? No, you... Fuck off. You high-fived yourself to just... Oh, man, I can't even...
See, that doesn't even make... He's talking in tongues now. We've lost contact with him.
Yeah, I can't even defend that, because who the fuck's gonna believe me over you?
Hey, you're the one in control of cutting this out, Danny.
Yeah. Ha.
Oh, here's the thing, though. It's good shit, so he ain't touching it.
Yeah, you're right. I can very easily cut it and just say no. Porter high-fived himself just to make Danny look like a jackass.
That doesn't even make sense.
No, it makes lots of sense, actually. What else is new?
See, victim again. Look at you.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I gave this prick a mango Pepsi Zero, too.
Oh.
So, yeah, I mean, the starting point like that is, not necessarily, but at the beginning, but you find your spot and, the inspiration here. And as we established, getting ideas from your group is important. I like that too. I don't get that a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't.
As far as where we want to go?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I look back and most commonly, what I hear is, I'm not sure. I'm good for whatever. Or, and I got this from you guys consistently. Nush, wherever you want to take us. It's fine.
And it was...
Like, I'm not complaining.
Yeah, see? But a lot of people nowadays, we play online, sometimes with people we've never met before, finding them on Roll20 or Discord communities or even Reddit.
Sure.
So it's important to take some people's ideas into account because some people do have strong ideas on where they'd want to go. So it's nice to be straightforward with what they might be expecting in a game.
Oh, I'm not suggesting otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, though, because... And I remember after the first and again, we posted these. We put these online. These are 4 of the episodes of the Into the Breach. We had that discussion out of character. Okay, do we want to keep playing? Fuck yeah, we want to keep playing.
Sweet.
I remember having the conversation, the 4 of us, saying, okay, if we want to keep going, I am giving you option A. I am also giving you option B. But option C through Z are all on the table. It is up to you guys. Where do you want to go? How do you want to do this?
It's an accurate paraphrasation.
I mean, it's got to be something close to that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not actuality, but it's certainly close enough.
Close enough. You had 2 directions in mind of either this one or this one is what they would probably do, and you can write a story around that. But to get all of our opinions on when we say, and that goes for everything, not just this one spot, but when we say, oh no, just take us where you want to go, it's in my head when I say something like that, it's because I am so engulfed in the story, I don't want to take you out of it. If that makes sense.
No, it does, and I appreciate that. I'm just saying, I wasn't making a greater commentary on it. I'm just saying, is this something I've dealt a lot with because, you guys, you and Tom in particular, were more interested in where I wanted to take the game than where you wanted to take the game.
Yes.
Which really works out for me. But
I was going to say, and I can see where it can be a detriment because I don't know yet where I want to go with it. I was kind of hoping on your guys' opinions.
Well, and also it's important, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, shit, you too, Danny. The fact of the matter is tabletop RPGs. Mm-hmm. The thing it's unique about this, it's not any one person.
Right.
It's not about you, Danny. It's not about you, Em. It's not about me. It's about all of us.
Yeah. It's the collective.
Yeah, it's about having fun together.
There's not the one person,
Yeah.
I'm the one who writes the story, but I'm writing the story in service to everybody. So everyone has a good time, and that's the important thing,
And now it's even worse because we put it online.
Yeah.
Not worse, but
if somebody's not having a good time, you want to try to pull them back into the loop, find something to engage them.
No, 100%. And I mean, ideally you don't get to that point. But also, there's a lot of mitigating factors on that too.
Oh yeah.
Because sometimes,
especially the more people you have.
Right. Sometimes people just need to be that center of attention and there's nothing you can do, but that's a different show. Mm-hmm. So let's not focus on that shit.
It's a different episode.
Absolutely.
Might be a different show. Not even one of our episodes.
Fuck. But, there's that. And as you're building though, maybe to move on from the beginnings here. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I've talked about this before actually, and I think it's been a long time since I've brought it up. So it's one of these things that maybe
it's probably worth mentioning again.
Yeah. One of those concepts that maybe we should be talking about more often.
Okay.
It's the don't write a green vial.
Yeah. The green vial.
And you know
green
this?
Vial.
Yep. See, there you go. It's been so long. See, this is why. So once upon a time, all right. I'm a comic guy. That's not part of Once Upon a Time.
No.
That's
shocking.
Yeah, right. It's crazy. But no. Once upon a time, there was an issue of X-Men, and I believe Fabian Nicieza was writing it. It's been a while, so I was still in junior high when this happened, right?
I remember.
In this particular issue, it's
telling me.
Gambit and Rogue, and they go on a date, and finally it doesn't go so well, so they both, they do not leave together. And Gambit's walking past this dark alley. A villain, someone comes from, hey, Gambit, look at our history. Oh, what? Who's this, mon ami? And it's got right. It's Mr. Sinister, and this supervillain. He alludes to a shared past with Gambit, and he hands him a vial of green liquid, and it never comes up again. But with the nature of comics, right? Writing teams change, so it's several years later, and there's it's an X-Men anniversary, and there's an interview. And in this interview, its question is he goes, so what was in the green vial? His answer was, buh. We just thought it was cool.
Yeah. I mean, I get if you had an idea of where it's supposed to go.
But this is the thing. And this is a don't write a green vial. This is the lesson I learned from that moment, is how I was incensed. How the fuck do you write something and not know what you wrote?
Yeah. That's gotta be.
That's maddening to me.
I'm sure it's frustrating as a writer, but then for someone else to be a receiver of this content and to not know ever, like, oh, I get red herrings, but like, Jesus Christ, green violet takes the cake.
The cake's a lie too.
Bummer.
To make that anecdote a little bit more solid, how do you, Porter, when writing a story, go about not writing a green vial story? How do you make it compelling and make sure you have all the details mean something to the characters?
Well, see, and that's exactly it, right? Like, and whether or not it means something to a character, that's not up to, I mean, it's my job to help make that happen, right?
Yeah.
But that's not, I can't control how, like, Danny reacts to a thing. I can, knowing Danny, pull some strings to maybe guide him in that direction.
I'll say, if you can guide him correctly,
But
sure.
but first things first, before all that is, by saying, don't write a green vial, it's you have to know what you're writing before you write it. If you can't drop, some MacGuffin down or a plot point and not know where it's going. You can't write a evil mastermind with a plot and not know what the plot is. You can't just go, well, I think this scene would be neat, so I'm going to write this scene leading into something, but really apropos of nothing.
The mastermind who wants to take over the world. Well, how does he do that? I don't know yet.
Well, why does he do it? I don't know that either. But you have to know that shit first. You can't decide that 11th hour for a couple reasons. I have no problem telling a player no. I will always tell you why, because that's important.
Yes.
Right? And so this is the why here, is because you can decide, you could start this plot, you can start with this MacGuffin and, what does it mean? And you're going to leave that mystery and let it simmer. And then 5 chapters later, decide what it is. But what it is 5 chapters later, if you didn't have a plan in the first place, there's a disconnect there.
No, there's a very big disconnect, especially if you've let it simmer for how long.
And there's a better than even chance that shit's not going to make any sense when you put all the pieces together. Because, like, you didn't take a picture and divide it into puzzle pieces. Right? You jabbed your stupid fist into a barrel full of puzzle pieces and are now trying to make a picture out of what you pulled out.
It's a nice analogy.
Thank you. I also like the visual of there's just a barrel full of random puzzle pieces. I don't know why that's a thing. But
I mean,
I'm into
I've
it.
seen worse weird things. I know what I said.
All right.
So, M, then.
Yeah.
Same question back to you.
Remind me what the question was.
Well, you asked it.
Yes. Oh, okay. Like, how do you make it the green vial matter?
Yeah. How do you make it so it's not a green vial?
Yeah. So I use a lot of idea webs whenever I'm writing. So I start out with my main ideas and the scenes that you want to hit, right? Mm-hmm. Those plot points. I put those all on one piece of paper. I've got tons of sketch pads. And so I put those ideas on a piece of paper and I try to connect them. And if there's no reason for that line to be there, I give that line a reason. And those lines are each different things that the characters might run into, play through, etc. And then after I have the whole idea web down, I put everything into a little bit more detail by typing it up.
I like bullet points personally, but it's the same.
Yeah.
Same idea, different execution.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so while you use bullet points, I just make idea webs because it helps me visualize a little bit better how all the ideas are connected, how the big bad is connected to the small things that are happening in the world.
And something I've always maintained, and I've said it a few times on the show, what you should do is you should make sure to find a third party you can run this shit by that has
verification.
Just bare minimal knowledge of things so that it makes sense to the outside observer. Because it's very easy when you're writing, because you hold all the cards, right?
Right.
It's very easy to assume that players will have knowledge that they absolutely will not have because you're the one writing it all. You know, well, of course they'll know that. How will they know that? They can't read your mind.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're not mind readers.
Right? And, I don't think anyone does it on purpose. But it's an easy thing to forget or to assume, a level of knowledge that the players just aren't going to have.
Especially newer players.
Well, and it's not even about that. But I mean, sure. But I mean, if you're writing a story, right, with its twists and turns or, and what have you, they don't see your maps, right? They don't see the cards that you're holding. Again, we go back to the logical progression. If you can't follow that progression through the steps of your story, through your villain's plan, or even just the solid beats of what's going on in the world or in that game, it's all got to make sense, even if they can't see all of it. But if you're presenting like a mystery, they have to be able at some point to put these pieces together.
Right.
Otherwise, it's unfulfilling for them.
Could I give a specific example?
Please.
Yeah. So the other day I was helping somebody write, go over their idea for a Warhammer 20 game. And they were asking if it made sense or what they could do next to get the players going on. So I was just asking questions, right? One of the ideas was, yeah, exactly. The characters had found this truck. And the idea was that they were going to be able to follow this truck back to where the source was. And so I was asking, what information do they have about the truck? Are they going to be able to track that down? What happens if they don't do that? What's the second plan? What's the third plan? What are all the options that the characters can use surrounding this to go to the next step of your story? And it's a different game completely, but if they interrogate or follow, make sure there's a path for both of those.
It is important to have contingencies, for sure. Even if sometimes...
Contingencies. Oops.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm out of the loop on this.
Thanks for listening to the podcast.
Well, I mean...
Depending
a lot of that came from the Postmortem series.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I've only recently listened to a few postmortems. I don't have all of the postmortems, Danny.
No, I know. I'm taking it back.
The Postmortems, by the way, are on sale in our Ko-Fi. It's ko-fi.com/rage across the internet.
Yeah.
Sales are great.
So the second tier of the...
No, it's the third tier.
Is it? Oh, that's right. My mistake.
Yeah.
Third tier.
For our backers. They get that every month. So what were we talking about?
Contingency plans, apparently.
Go donate.
Go donate.
No, it is. It's important to have your plan B because and sometimes a plan C. But,
I was going to say, you might want to at least have an idea of where you're going to go with it.
Right.
Plan C, plan D.
It's almost a little infamous where Tom kiboshed the end of one of my chronicles by coming up with a really good idea.
That was a really good idea.
It was a really good idea, but it was something that I never saw coming, never thought about. He didn't even think would work, but on a break, we looked into it. We're taking a dinner break, we looked into it. It's lo and behold, no, that will work. And moreover, the elders that you pitched that to would know that, even though I didn't. Which led to me rewriting on the fly the end of the Chronicle. Insofar that it cut the story down by 2. They won the game 2
stories ahead of time.
Yeah, 2 stories early.
Yes, this is familiar to me.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to rewrite things like that. You don't need to stick to your original plan.
No, exactly. And in fact,
the time.
And not only do you not need to, you shouldn't. I believe it was the first Storyteller's Handbook. It might have been the second one. It was one of them. Mm-hmm. But it talks about, the mark of a great storyteller. It's not that you have all of your maps detailed in your 20-page script and it's all ready to go and you've got it memorized. That's important to have your shit.
Absolutely.
But it's equally important to be able to take all of that and toss it out the window if your players take that left instead of the right.
Yeah, being able to think on the fly like that's gotta be important. And that's one of the reasons I wouldn't be a very good storyteller.
Well, and not only being able to be good on your feet and think on the fly, but also be flexible enough to do that. Because
the flexibility that I'd have the problem with.
Because there are storytellers out there. And I almost hate.
You don't want to call anybody out, and I get it.
No, it's not that. I almost hate giving them the moniker storyteller. But there are people out there who will, and let's go back to this turn left, turn right thing.
Mm-hmm.
They have planned for left in the characters go right.
And they don't know what to do?
Well, no, they'll go, well, no, you can't.
They start pushing them back left.
Right. I mean, it's one thing to nudge a thing or to move left to right eventually, but to go, oh, you can't because there's a car pileup. Now, we joke about that. I think I did joke about that in a story once.
Probably.
But it was obviously for comedic effect. Like, it didn't actually rain silver and the floor didn't become lava on the right.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
That's a fun joke to, haha. But to really do that, no. You gotta allow, and again, there's nothing wrong with steering the story back in the right direction, but to go, this is yes and, not no. Right.
Yeah, to take away their ability to choose.
Yeah, to remove player agency. It's fucked up, and I have a hard time giving this the moniker of storyteller to people who do that.
Yeah, it's not a storyteller at that point. That's not even a story. That's...
Well, I think it's the storyteller making it about them.
Okay, that's fair. That's way better than what I was going to say.
It's a very black and white, one direction story. It's a one-way street. How do you steer away from those one-way streets and make a compelling story, Porter?
Well, again, the flexibility is important. And for me, and I think this holds itself better to the World of Darkness in the storytelling system here. Right, it's the same way that a DM is not a storyteller. But it's the focus on characters. And the strength of that can really go a long way. It's about building relationships. Obviously between storyteller and player, fine. But between the characters, you're the pack there with the NPCs. And to me, the more life you give that, the more real you make that feel.
Oh, the stronger bond it is.
Yes. It to make it matter. And that's the thing too, is you have a lot of people, and this is a trap people fall into. Right, and I don't blame them for it, but it's this idea of the raising stakes.
Oh, the supernatural, god.
Yes, and it's my favorite example. That or Dragon Ball Z, where it starts with an alien invader, and I mean it's still going, but like you've punched now they're fighting the god of the gods, the god of the goddom. It's like what's happening? What you can have a story that culminates in like you saved the park. And that can still be, that can still be compelling as long as the stakes are there on a personal level. Mm-hmm.
But you can't get that personal level in game if you don't build those relationships and you don't establish the setting and you don't show the character strength.
Correct.
And I look to KT. KT is the 5th member of our pack. She is the 5th beetle. This relationship with KT that we have, us trying to figure out who the hell she really is, no one would give a shit if she wasn't such a strong character.
So people might not give a shit. We don't know.
Okay. I might, then I'll take people away okay. and I'll use me personally. I'm hoping other people might agree with me.
Sure.
But, personally, I can at least say that much. If I wasn't so invested in KT, such a close part of our group now, I don't think I would really give a shit about her and what she could possibly do. We know she's not a mage. That's what we know so far.
She's probably not an umpire.
When we have probablys, we have a lot of probablys of what she isn't.
I'm going to say you can rule out umpire.
I know we can rule those out. I'm just saying we know that for sure. We know a lot of for sure's. I'm just saying.
It's not Olympics.
It's definitely not Olympics.
Yeah, Danny, you're right. Those interactions with characters and NPCs are fun to make the story compelling. Like your interactions with KT are a little bit different than CJ's interactions, which were a little bit different than Tom's interactions, etc. And my character has only had the one interaction. I have a very different view. Yeah, exactly. My character has a very different view than your characters, I'm sure.
Right. And those differences are super important, too.
And the differences make up all that matters.
And a lot of the assumptions of my character have come from your guys' characters telling her about KT.
Oh, I'm sure. I was going to ask that, actually.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. Porter, do you use like character triangles, like interaction triangles at all?
I don't. I keep. I think you would be surprised how much of this I just keep up in my head.
Okay. Well, I'm a person who likes to draw things out.
That's fair.
No, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I keep 90% of my shit right up here. You know.
Which is kind of
in
impressive.
your brain?
Yep.
It's kind of because I'm going to give credit on Porter for this one because this is a whole brand new world. This is a second world that you have to keep up compared to the actual world that we have to live through.
Well, that's the other thing too is, you know, you look at the continuity with the Summering, which is different than this one.
Wait,
that's up there too.
That's kind of the point there, yeah. Each one of the, like, it might be a separate world, but each one of those have its own dimensions too.
Yeah, and sometimes I get the streams crossed or I fuck up where I name two characters Carter. Good job, Porter.
Or Dodger.
And if you're not like Porter and can't keep things in your head and are like me and need to draw it out, that's fine. And you can see those interactions through like character triangles.
And
like I could probably write one up for my character's perception over KT based on what CJ's character and Danny's characters were telling her.
Well, and let's take a second with that.
Yeah.
For those who are not aware, what's a character triangle?
Oh,
yeah,
great question, Porter. Thank you.
I wasn't led there at all.
I returned the energy.
Beautiful.
So, of course, you start by drawing a triangle.
And that's like a circle, but like with the points?
With more distinct points.
Like 3/4 of a
round.
square?
Yes.
Cool.
Remove one of the edges from a square and you make a triangle.
Perfect.
Wow.
It doesn't matter if it's what shape of a triangle. It could be an equilateral triangle, a cute triangle. It really doesn't matter.
I think your triangles are adorable.
Oh, thank you.
Screw it cute. They're adorable.
Yeah.
The teacher's coming out.
Not too obtuse, I'm sure.
Not at all. Jesus, we make our own fun, huh?
All right. So with that, though, let's use KT as an example, right? If I'm remembering correctly, who was it that first interacted with Carly about KT? Danny, I think it was your character boasting about how awesome she is, and I asked if he had a crush on her.
Probably something like that, sure.
So at our triangle, we put Danny's character at the top, talking and boasting about how great KT is. Mm-hmm. And so at the other corners of the triangle, you put KT's character. And that line connecting those two characters is the perception. What perception does Danny have about KT?
Fifth Beetle.
Yes.
I liked how Porter said it before, and I've kept it. I loved it. She's the fifth beetle.
The fifth beetle, yes. And then you have CJ's character's interactions about KT. And so on the other end of the triangle, you have CJ and his perceptions of KT, whatever that might be. So you've got this triangle connecting Danny, CJ, and KT. And then my character has never met KT before, so you can add two lines, one coming from CJ and one coming from Danny, entering in Carly. She has no ideas of what KT is like, but all of her perceptions there, if you were to draw a line from my character to KT, are based off of the perceptions that she got from two other individuals. So they could be skewed.
Does the triangle eventually change?
Yeah, it could, yes. I mean, it's ever changing based on character interactions.
It's true. Like when you guys find out that she's actually two Macaulay taped together.
Oh no, you ruined this.
Okay, Discord cut out. What just happened?
I blacked out for a second. What happened?
It's like, sorry, that was too stupid to understand. Try it again. No, we all know that KT's really a rat king.
Oh, bummer.
Rat king.
No, I know.
Yeah, she's both.
Bummer. It is a bummer.
But yeah, it's just to show the character interactions. You can
like
write down like feelings and thoughts that come from it. And if you're ever taking notes, are you an avid note taker, Danny?
Absolutely not.
I thought.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, if you were to ever take notes, it's also a good way to take notes as well. You could use these triangles to like connect your perception of things.
I stopped
and
taking
how you
notes.
think other people think of things.
That's a really good idea. And I feel like that's definitely going to be brought up on a show if we ever do a show with this same exact cast about characters that's recorded today.
I am an avid note taker, so
I think that's excellent.
I used to be. I mean, I'm not very good at it, but I would just write down shit that happened. I'm not, not looking at triangles and obtuses, but.
Oh my God, Danny.
Yes, but as a storyteller, you could write these out as ways, like if you're introducing characters into like a story and they are joining a sept or a part of the sept. Do they know who the Gen Father is, and how do they know him? Were they trained here in the sept, or did they just come here and have one interaction?
Well, and let's
who have they met that have met him, and how does that skew their perception of the individual?
Well, and not only is that, I mean, that's all good advice. And the idea of visual aids, like that character triangle, I think that's great. It's not something that I use, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it's good stuff. Yeah.
But something else when you're building, and again, this goes back to NPC building, that's relevant when you're building the story because you need to have compelling characters.
Yes.
You need to have a supporting cast to flesh out that world, make it matter. The ways that you convey information to your players is very important. We talk about show, don't tell whenever possible.
Right.
And I'll use a real world example to previous games. Is in the Septa Sweet Summer Rain setting. You had the hard-ass warder, Kasai Moonwalker, right?
Yeah.
Kasai is not to be fucked with. She's a badass, right? Philodox Octana, fucking, you don't want to cross her.
She is one of the, how do I put this? She's not my favorite character game, but she's definitely one of the most memorable ones.
Okay, you take it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but you take that character, right? This no nonsense. Oh God, is she looking at me?
Yep.
It might have taken a couple years off my life kind of character, right? And then you introduce a pack like the Defense and Desire pack, which is a group that for this particular game was referenced a few times, but they're off on a mission, right?
They're very much laid back.
But here's the thing, right? Is and this didn't happen in your game exactly, a version of this might have, right? You finally introduce this Defense and Desire pack, and their alpha stands with a long shadow, calls her grandma.
Oh.
You can see how that just made Danny wonder how that changed his perception of the character.
Yeah, wow, okay.
And it establishes a relationship between at least that character, if not that entire pack.
Yes.
And those elders that you talk to Kasai that way, casually. And I didn't finish that sentence with, and she took their fucking kneecap out. Right?
Yeah, no, I'm very, especially knowing who his actual family members are. Okay, wow.
But at that point, that is now a term of endearment.
Yes.
But a level of informality that no one else dared at that sept previously would use.
No, absolutely not.
So that tells you something about the character relationships without giving you this exposition dump about their shared history.
Right.
Because that's not how people talk. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I showed you the relationship. I didn't tell you what it was.
I like that. Fucking hell. Yeah, I'm sure if anyone's listening, you probably just saw it. Like, you probably
They absolutely
actually
did not
saw
see it.
No, they might have. The perception changed big time.
I did
real fast.
I did just blow Danny's mind there. That was great.
I mean, obviously, it didn't happen in our game.
No. They had a very different introduction for you guys.
Right. But if it did happen, yeah, a lot of would have changed. A lot of what perception completely changed. Fucking hell. Wow.
You're presenting a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's show, don't tell.
Well, it just goes back to the whole, and we've talked about it recently, the Bodhi and Mia. the relationship between that and the
perception versus the reality.
Yes, and there's a level of intimacy there, but not a romantic intimacy.
True.
Whereas in the outside world, you might think that, or things might look like it, but
well, and that's a little different because that is a relationship that you do kind of have to explain.
Yes,
because by looking at it, it does look rather untoward and like a fucking problem.
Yeah,
but also, you can see that that's something that I
slowly
played up.
Yes, I was going to say slowly revealed.
Well, and the purpose of some of those misdirect or questionable moments between the two of them, that if you don't know better, you look at that and you go, and certainly...
Well, character building.
Well, yeah, certainly that's how that would break down because you don't know them, but it also ideally helps teach the player, or not the player, but the characters to maybe look before they leap a bit.
Okay, good call. Good call.
Let's not jump to conclusions because when we do that, we look like an asshole because we didn't have the information we thought we did.
Right.
I mean, that's the hope.
I like that though. That's good. Fuck. Grandma. Wow.
It actually would have been Chance before Swalls, but still.
Yeah. And making compelling characters for your story. It also helps not to have too many extra characters, like needless NPCs that don't contribute much.
I agree to a point. Depending on like the size of your sept, right?
Yeah.
It's good to have characters in the chamber. And I guess a great example, we go back to the Defense and Desire pack we just mentioned. Because this was a pack that existed and was mentioned, but wasn't present in the sept for a good chronicle.
Yeah.
Right? We had other characters around and we built them and we got to know them because you definitely don't want to throw everybody in all at once also.
Info dump.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to avoid that.
That's what I meant. Yeah. Don't throw all the characters at your players all at once. Introduce them whenever they become necessary.
No, I totally agree. But, by keeping reference of something or someone in the background, I talk about making sure those characters are fleshed out and getting in a cardboard town. And that's true, but it doesn't need to be done all at once.
Which is why that slow reveal made the most sense. Yeah, hey, there is a group called the Defense and Desire. You'll hear about them eventually.
Yeah, you've heard a thing or two. What do you know by paying attention? You know that they were supposed to be back. You know that some of the elders are irritated that they're not.
Yep. And
that other members of the Council of Elders are protecting them. You know that. And that's fine. And that's more than enough.
I was going to say, that's more than enough.
So next Chronicle, when they show up, you're like, I remember hearing about these guys.
So you already have a feeling towards them.
Right. It's
good or bad.
Right. But it's there. They're not coming out of nowhere.
Right.
And
you're also building up the environment of the sept as well.
Exactly.
By doing that.
Yes. Stuff like errant kinfolk. I look to the Summering because it's my favorite of the settings.
Of course.
You had your 4 park ranger kinfolk, right?
Uh-huh.
You had Andrew Bookman, you had Roy Becker, you had Ted Collins, and Vanessa Milano. Excuse me, and Vanessa Romano. Jesus, what did I do there? Fucking cookie on the brain or some shit.
Yeah.
But you guys didn't interact with Vanessa like at all.
No. Well,
you really barely at all.
Because we were warned.
Well, also because I wrote it that way.
I was going to say, yeah, you wrote it so we were intimidated right off the bat.
Well, that's all well and good, but I also kept her screen time down.
That too. Good point.
You had 4 kinfolk here. I kept the focus on Roy and Bookman.
Uh-huh.
There are 2 more, and you know the other 2. You're aware that they exist. We can focus on them later. But you know they exist.
And that's all that mattered. Yeah.
Right. They've already been established. You just don't know them. So it's not a Cousin Oliver kind of situation where there's this character all of a sudden who is allegedly important or relevant and has been, but you've never heard of them before.
Yeah. I hate when that happens. That shit's irritating.
You want to avoid doing that. So yeah, if you have characters that aren't ready or you know you're going to want to add in more people relevant already, just throw a couple mentions out there every now and then. Have a pack name in mind. And
Makes
bring
sense.
up that pack name once or twice and then just leave it on the shelf until you're ready. Cool. This way you don't have the info dump, but you've, established that they belong in the world. They're not just coming in out of nowhere. And you can have people arrive, but you got to know when you use both,
Mm-hmm. I like that idea, though. It makes sense.
That's a good way to both make the story compelling and to like build the environment in a way that's interesting and makes the players and characters curious.
And care.
Puts them into the world, makes it more of a living, breathing organism rather than a
cardboard town.
Oh.
There we go. I was looking for the words.
I can see it, though. I mean, let's say you didn't, establish, we'll use Vanessa as the example. You didn't establish Vanessa. And then all of a sudden she was there. It's just another park ranger, dude.
Yeah, who's that? Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, but why is she here? Why do we care that she's here? We don't. Which makes her useless now.
And, and maybe to expand on her for a second, right? Because she's not a character that gets a whole lot of play around here in terms of conversation.
Right, but
like if we bring up Whiplash,
mm-hmm.
fucking everyone's like, this guy again, whatever. But Vanessa, yes, she was a kinfolk. She's a park ranger for the Sept, right? But I wrote her to be extremely attractive.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for a couple reasons. Number one, because the characters, statistically, most of them are teenage boys.
Right.
Right. So there's going to be that, ooh, look at the hug. Great. But she's also extremely cold and shut off. So I wanted the juxtaposition there. Also, so she's going to be like super fucking nasty. Right. Mm-hmm. They're going to want to, but, get close to her and become friends with her or whatever. Right. And she ain't having it.
No. Nope.
But also,
get away from me, kid.
Neither are the Rabies in Chains, who again are the premier guardian pack of that Sept. And why? Because she's the widow of a former packmate.
Right.
She's their fifth beetle. So they're particularly protective of her. To the point is it was made very clear to your pack, Danny, that you are not.
Don't touch her.
Don't touch her. Don't flirt with her. I don't even want to catch you looking at her.
Yeah, that was Dead Man's exact words. I don't want to catch you looking at her.
They were protective. That's our sister-in-law.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that they were very protective of her.
So
don't you catch me looking at you.
Right. And so this, it creates ties again between the character and in the Rabies and Chains. It helps to show some of the different relationships that kinfolk can have with the Garo, mm-hmm. especially again, because she's such again, she's so closed off.
Yeah.
The loss of her husband changed her fundamentally.
Yeah.
And she is she would be considered a problem for many Septs. The kinfolk who is talking back.
Oh, okay. It took me a second to realize what you were saying.
I don't remember if it was your group, because I've used that setting multiple in
mm-hmm.
different groups. I don't remember if it was you guys or back at the Virginia games when someone needed to borrow her car. And she essentially told whoever was asking to go fuck themselves.
I don't think it was us, because I think we learned right off the bat that we're just not going to, mess with her at all. Can't even ask her anything.
That sounds about right. It was probably Vidoma.
Oh.
Who asked for, we need to go out supply, so we need to borrow your car. You can't have my car. Well, no, but we need your car. So give me your keys. But so, by having these relationships built in and having that character
mm-hmm.
built the way that she was, I wanted to, again, to show the different relationships, how that's handled differently by different characters.
Yes. Showing
further ties in the world around everybody. The game is about you, is the players. But
Correct.
The world does not revolve around you.
Yep. That's another one of those lines that we've said that is so fucking important and it needs to be remembered all the time.
Well, and I think it goes hand in hand with building these compelling characters in building the world around you. Because if you give a shit about the characters, if you care about Whiplash or you care about Dead Man Dempsey, then the fact that Vanessa matters to them matters to you.
Exactly.
The fact that if she gets killed in an attack on the cairn, even if you don't like that character or your characters don't like that character,
you know how the Rabies and Chains are going to react, and then you're going to feel a certain way because of that.
Right, because suddenly she's dead, Dempsey's devastated, and you really like Dempsey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, like, how would the dynamic change if she was gone? A kinfolk. Who gives a shit about a kinfolk kind of thing? But, like, no, they give a shit about the kinfolk.
Right.
And because they give a shit, now you give a shit. Someone who's...
That's the hope.
Yeah. Someone who is taking in that content and bringing that in part of that story. Not someone who's just listening to the story, which I would hope that is too, but someone who's part of that story. That's a hit. That's an absolute punch to the gut. It can be.
That's the hope.
If it's not a punch to the gut, then what are you listening to?
You know, I cannot stress the importance enough to build those kind of connections. For me, it begins and ends with the character work. We're running on the street killing Fomori. We don't care about the Fomori.
Yeah.
You need to make people care and be interested. Maybe it's a different game. Maybe I killed the thing. I got a fun item. Look at all the experience I got. Enjoy D&D. That's fine.
Yeah, that is a way to play. That's how some people play games, is the monster of the week. But it's also nice to be like submersed into a world with like stories that are occurring. While you might just be playing a small part, there are other things that are happening. I played in Stride's game for several years, and at one point in time, the elder of the Sept had died, and somebody new came in. Our characters hadn't met him for the longest time. This new Sept elder, the leader of the Sept, but we were getting secondhand knowledge from other characters that we had interacted with about who he was and what he was like. And we feared him because of the perception that people we knew were giving us. It was a good perception. We were to fear him.
That makes sense.
No, it's perfect. And that's exactly the stuff, right? And by the way, you can do Monster of the Week stories while still...
Yeah.
Like, those aren't mutually exclusive.
Yeah, they can go together.
Right. The threat itself isn't necessarily... I mean, it can absolutely be. You're building a villain, but even then, that's finite. Let's look at Batman and the Joker. Let's go fucking classics, right?
Oh, if you're going to go classic, sure.
Now, Batman cannot kill the Joker, because the Batman does not kill. Right. He can stop the Joker, so the Joker can break out and the cycle continues anew. But Werewolf the Apocalypse is not Batman. Werewolves absolutely kill. And unlike sitting down and, picking up a stack of comics and reading Adventures of Batman, you're active participants in the game.
Right.
So, to mix my metaphors now, it's like the cat with the string. If you don't let the cat get the string, it will leave. It will get bored and go, fuck you. I don't like this game. It's rigged. I'm going home.
Yeah, you gotta let it catch it once
I'm going to go shit in a box. So yeah, you have to let the cat catch the string. That great NPC villain you've created that you're so fond of has to die. Has to die at some point. So as a storyteller, don't get too attached to that shit. Because if you don't let them die, if you don't let your characters eventually, and hopefully in a satisfying way, put an end to that character, they are going to get bored. Oh God, you can't do it. They have to go down eventually.
And kind of along that same vein, you have to let your characters have a win.
Yes.
I've played games before that the characters never had a win. They were always just getting deeper and deeper into this failing state. And it was just discouraging to play as a character in that type of game. The characters need a win, even if it's something little.
Wholeheartedly agree. Personally, I like the ebbs and flows. I like breaking even a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
You gotta fail too.
Well, absolutely. You know, we lost this, but we did do this, and we did this. And that for me is when eventually, when you get like a solid win.
And then
hopefully it'll feel just so sweet.
And at the same time, getting a devastating loss fucking hurts.
Yes, it does. And you got to be careful with that.
But if all you're getting is devastating losses. If all you're getting is these wins. Whereas you're not developing your character at all. Your character is not really changing throughout. They're not having any trials or tribulations.
I like the breaking even part. It makes the most sense to me.
Well, I think it's mostly how life goes. You know, we take our wins and our losses, but largely we just kind of break even.
Yeah. That hurts.
I know, but there it is.
But you're right.
You know, it's the touch of realism without reality, because we're here for escapism and fun. Mm-hmm. But again, you need to have the world grounded in relatable. It's that balancing act.
Yes.
I'm excited for like the postmortems coming up. The last couple, because I did that one, and I don't want to bring the spoiler out, but like that one specifically hit home. It was like after a devastating loss, it was like, okay, but we got this little bit of a win. We're gonna be, maybe we're not. Maybe we're not gonna be okay, but we're that much closer to being okay.
And I mean, he's just talking about a ping pong tournament, so that's probably a lie.
What? He was a really good ping pong player, even with one hand.
Don't want to know where the other one was. Hey-o.
He did the behind the back shots a lot.
Help.
Okay, so we've covered. I'm looking at the pitch you gave me, right? How to create compelling stories, covered. Build immersive environments, kind of covered, yeah. Manage unique challenges of running a campaign. We haven't really touched on that one.
Okay.
Is this the help you wanted?
Well, I just meant because where he's going, and it was scary. But,
yes, then it worked.
It did work. 'Cause, yeah.
Well, I have a... I guess it's a question, or is it more of a statement, and you can tell me if I'm wrong?
Like,
questions can be statements. Yes. That was both a question and a statement.
Now, when we're talking about building the characters, and the more established they are, the stronger the connection to the game you are, and how you feel about that game. I imagine those characters who are that much more important, those have a lot more triangles for you, don't they?
Sometimes, yes.
Or
they just become their own page of notes.
Oh, okay. Even more.
After a while, it just becomes a page of notes.
I can imagine if she did like a KT one eventually, that triangles everywhere.
I think it's just going to be like a frowny face. Middle of the page, like a middle finger.
I mean, there currently is a little bit of a frowny face.
Oh, damn. I had one conversation with her.
Yeah, exactly.
Eventually, I said.
Yeah, eventually.
You know, that's something I'd like to bring up too, though. I mean, I think this makes a nice segue, is the revolving door of a cast sometimes.
Yes, that is a challenge of running a campaign.
I was going to say, that could be a very unique challenge.
It turns out it can be, and look at what just happened. And probably that part's getting cut, so this is apropos of nothing, but I love that too. We'll find out.
I can move around it.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, people leave games all the time.
Yeah, shit happens.
Yes.
People come and go sometimes, and it sucks.
And sometimes it's just for a little bit, too. Like, for example, for those... I was playing on the Discord forever in Strides' game. But at one point in time, I can't remember if I was visiting Sweden or if I was just needing a break. Either way, I told Strides, I said, hey, I'm going to have to lay off for a couple months. But I would like to join back in. What do you do with that character in that time? You don't want them just sitting there like a robot or like walking around like a robot with them. What do? In his case, he put my character into a coma. My character had a tendency to space out a lot and meditate for long periods of time. He just decided, oh, look, she's there forever. Not forever, but until we can figure out what the hell's going on with her. Like, she is in this coma. We cannot contact her. Nobody can, like, interact with her at all. There she is. But whenever when he pushed me back into the story, though, it wasn't just, here I am, I'm back, what's up? There was a, where were you? Why were you gone so long? And he also gave my character some dreams and visions that kind of tied into what was going on in the story.
I love that Strides had you meditate so hard your brain broke and you fell into a coma.
Yeah. There was something big happening in the world at the time, and I was communing with my ancestors.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure that's not how he wrote it, but I like my paraphrasation. That's hilarious.
Yes. He wrote it as I was talking with my ancestors.
I meditated too hard and I had a brain aneurysm.
But yes, what do you do with those characters when they are gone for short periods or long periods is important.
No, it absolutely is. And I go back to, and this is something that those who follow along with our postmortem series, again, on sale on the Ko-Fi, blah, blah, blah. We had that problem with Tangled Webs, where we had a player temporarily exit. And how we worked around that, was important because, it can really fuck up a story.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll get to that in a second. That shit's a little topical.
Yep.
But I will say it was fun. Christ, there's a level here. Spoilers versus not. And it's fuck. Working with that player for the return and coming up with what that character was up to, and then bringing the character back into a group that has found its footing without that character to reestablish those lines. It was neat, but it presented challenges.
Now, that's a big challenge because we just said it how long ago, just fucking a short few minutes. The game's about us, but it doesn't revolve. It doesn't revolve around us. So things still are happening, whether that character's there or not. They don't just disappear and then show up with, no knowledge.
Well, right. But and that's why it was fun to come up with that, what happened in the interim and how does that change the dynamics? Because while that character is off doing the list of shit that going through the shit they went through, the pack was still back home going through shit as well.
Right.
And reestablishing things and forming bonds differently at the same time.
And now that this character is being thrown into something that they had no knowledge of since they weren't there, how do they react to these things?
Right. And how is
that different than what they've been doing? And
how did the experiences change characters on both sides, and what does that mean for their interactions?
Yeah.
Big time.
And let's go more time with wherever God takes us, right? There's been some fucking challenges here, especially when you're writing, a more kind of mystery oriented story like I've been, what's going on in Willow's Pass? What the fuck is happening here? And then you have a character leave and it's like, shit, okay, this is going to mess with the dynamic. And we have to spend a little bit of time.
Yeah. You got to take away from this original story. Yeah.
Right. And then, hey, look, it's M. We brought in M, which.
Yay.
Yes, yay. We're very glad to have you with us. But
a lot of fun, by the way. Thank you.
I am glad to hear that. Thank you.
That feels good hearing. Thank you.
But then now we have to take a break from the narrative to introduce M.
Right.
And look, we're not complaining, but that's a thing you have to do now.
Right.
It's also not really a break from the narrative either, because we're still talking about it, discussing it, and kind of going through it.
Well, that's true. I found a way, and that's important to do too, is to try to find a way to weave it in.
Yeah, it's probably not always as easy. So with a character like M, it made it a little easier for the rest of us too.
Well, Em and I worked together in terms of how we would introduce her.
Which I thought was fucking awesome, by the way.
And I want to give props to M for being so accommodating to work with me, to help me, make that transition easier for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. It's important to have like a good transition too. Like, if you were to just have been like, "Oh, look, here's this new Garu, drop into town."
Right. No, I
What
thought it was
meaning does
fantastic.
that have for the story? What does that mean for my character? That would be kind of boring.
Right. And like if the setting was like a normal sept, if there was just a cairn there on the island,
It would make
you
a little bit
could have
more
done
sense.
that.
Yeah.
You could have that easily done
And
that.
it might have been a little bit more boring, but
Maybe, but it'd been so much easier to
I
just
mean,
go,
if we're
the
in a
elders go.
sept and she comes on in,
Yeah, the
they
elders are like, oh,
show
well,
her
you're all young.
around.
Exactly,
Yep.
exactly. You take care of the new girl. Just fucking, we're too busy. You do it.
and that in itself is an introduction.
It is.
But we didn't have a sept to do that with.
Right, so we had to get more creative.
My character was actually actively going to a sept to do that.
I absolutely love how you had like some of the pieces that we were missing to figure this out. And then I love that's how your characters were introduced, was to bring you in, but you're also bringing in some of the information we're missing. So to show the importance of you right off the bat.
I mean, I agree. I wanted, it does. It gives M's character a heightened importance to the story. I will say, and I don't love saying this out loud. Like, I don't love saying this because I wrote it.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I get it. You don't want to hum. Yeah.
It's because it's
Did
not.
they need a hint?
Well, no, because this stuff is already aired at this point, right?
Yes.
I was really pleased how we wrote, and we talked about that, how we worked the parasite in. To where you could see the Umbra as it was and they could not, because this was a thread
yes.
that they didn't even know fucking existed, but did the entire time.
Yep.
And the original plan was to have one of you guys lose a limb that happened to have been where the parasite was, and that's how the transition would have happened.
Oh my goodness.
Jesus.
Not permanently. Like, you'd have been able to, it was going to battle
Of
scar
course,
it.
but that would have been very much of a shock to those characters.
That was the original plan. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I like that. That's fun.
I hate
I'm
losing limbs.
It would have
yeah.
been permanent.
Glad that would have been prevented.
And I think that was going to be a really cool reveal, but it was, I think, more intriguing. And I'm not the judge of this because I'm not on the other side of the screen, right? But I think it was probably more intriguing for everybody because we don't know Carly. Right?
Absolutely.
And so is she just off her fucking nut? Because the rest
Still
of us
don't really know
clearly
her,
don't
too.
see.
Right. And I like even
Yeah.
how, and I like how CJ even goes, no, I gotta, truth of Gaia. How much is she actually?
Right? Like, is she lying? Is she crazy? Is she stupid?
Yeah.
Is she right?
All
What?
of the above.
She's grabbing arms and talking to nothing. And
Yep.
who is this mad woman and why is she with us?
Yeah. Or why do you keep touching all my skin?
It's suddenly she's right.
Yeah.
Fucking what?
I loved it. I was super happy with how all four of us were able to play it off. Fantastic. Such a cool idea. And again, having some of that knowledge beforehand.
And I mean, that's a bring up too, is to work with the players, with the new players especially, because it's not easy already. It's not easy coming into an established group.
No, I can't imagine.
It's not easy coming into a story fucking 9 chapters in or so.
But finding a way for
wow.
that character to be compelling and helpful to the story is important.
Yes. And, if we didn't have like a good relationship there, working together to make that happen, it could have been a very different experience.
11 chapters. Chapter 11 was a stranger in town? So she showed up the end of 10 and then...
Breaking it apart has fucked up my chi on that completely.
It's the time of verse.
It is. Everything in
Yes.
fucking time of verse.
Sure. But yes, I don't know what chapter that was.
What was Stranger
Yes,
in
the
Town?
Stranger in
Stranger in town. That's the way, again,
Yes.
we thought, well...
I don't know if the chapters have names though. Numbers.
No, they do.
They do.
But the trouble is, since they get broken into different parts for the show,
That we have to...
it
keep track of them.
complicates things. Yeah.
Yes.
Chapter 11, Part 2. Chapter 11, Part 3. Chapter 12, Part 1.
Fuck.
Maybe that was all in the same day. Maybe not. It's usually a chapter, but...
Yeah, usually, but...
I see, yes, chapter 11.
But, and I mean, there's plenty more we can talk about. And there will be in the future.
Right, because we focused on the storyteller part of it.
Well, and there's going to be plenty other storyteller episodes. I mean, we can say the same shit forever. See how long we can fucking...
Oh, yeah, tons.
You guys
obviously
know. We're out of time for the day. Or we have another episode to record and...
Yeah, yes, we do.
there's a ticking clock element here. You guys know how this works. So I'm going to screw us with the timeverse again by making a declarative statement about what happens in the future. We'll see you in 2 weeks for a character-based episode where we kind of flip the script on all this. So in the meantime, I want to say again, thank you again so much for your support and for sticking with us during this transition period. You know, I want to say thank you, Em, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It was a good time.
You are welcome anytime. Yeah. Hopefully, you enjoyed your first normal episode.
Normal recording.
Hopefully, you had a good time.
Yeah,
Goons here. And for everybody else, again, thank you so much. Make sure to take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Keep your claws sharp and your head in a swivel. And we'll see you. What? You lied to me.